Before we start, I want to get out a warning. While this video is about my 5 years on YouTube, it's also about the last 5 years on Minecraft, of Twitch, and of my personal journey. It will contain the people I've met, the places I've gone, and the person I found out I was. Up now are a list of potentially triggering or difficult topics I've gathered from the notes and script I made for this, so if any of this sounds too much, I apologize, and will try my best to put up a warning as they're being discussed. With that, I hope you enjoy the last few months of work in planning that went into this, and let's get started. Sometimes, as you're walking through life, you notice the changes around you. A building is complete after watching it be under construction for years. A band you like split up after making music for decades. You start a new school, you get a new pet. There's so many big moments in our lives where we realize that something's changed, but we're not sure how much yet. On the other side of the coin, there's the subtle changes we go through that take looking back to realize anything's changed at all. Maybe you're an artist looking through old sketchbooks, or a writer looking through old ideas and drafts. Maybe you're talking with a friend and you realize it's been 3 years since you met them and you're telling them your deepest fears. Or maybe it's a routine that you started a few months ago, and you never realized how much more you were accomplishing with it. Life, in its nature, is full of this subtlety. The small, unnoticeable changes we make every day that change who we are and how we live. Creative outlets like writing, drawing, painting, filming, editing, they fall under this constantly. You never realize how much you've improved until you view your old work, notice the details no one else would pick up on. The small fluctuations that change you from then to now. And as collectively an artist and editor of my own videos and an aspiring animator, I am guilty of this all the time. But sometimes you work on something long enough and you realize how much you've done. You get the chance to look back on all the times you struggled, all the times you gave up and kept going, and you realize what a journey it's been, just to get to the simple, most recent project you're working on. That finally, after all the small changes you've made, it's finally built up to a big turning point. And today, I've reached that point. Today, 5 years ago, on March 11th, 2017, my channel was created. I didn't know how to do YouTube. Heck, I barely had Minecraft for a year. But more than anything, I wanted to try, to see if I could make it, to actually make it. To build something I was proud of, to get to those wondrous high numbers of subs. My friends had done it in my eyes, the people I watched had done it. Why couldn't I? And even now, 5 years later, where my goals have become more defined, my skills have sharpened, and my setup is better than a phone in front of an old computer screen, I'm still trying to do just that. Build a community, make a living doing what I love with the people I love, and trying never to let anything stop me from accomplishing my goals, even myself. I may not have grown yet to a wider audience, and I may still be trying to break out of my homegrown bubble and expand into art and animation with my skills. So, you're probably wondering, why keep going after so many years of no success? Why keep trying to do better things if it doesn't seem like it will ever work? Why push yourself to make a celebration for a channel only seen by some close friends and a handful of fans? All that time, all that change, was it worth it? That's the goal of this video, to show you my life, my channel, and my hobbies, how they've grown and shaped me, the person I've become, both in real life and online. To show what it's taken to get here, an hour-long video about a tiny home run channel with dreams, and give you my answer. But to do that, we have to go back. Back before the end room tutorial, before the 2018 Minecraft compilation, back even before my first intro. We have to go back almost 2 years before my channel was created. The day I started middle school. August 25th, 2015. I was 11, going on 12. To most others going to my school, it was another big day, another start of the school year at a new school, a change to adjust to. But their friends were there too. They were going to find their classes and learn some new names. But not for me. For me, I transferred into the school with only one of my friends at the time, and had met someone else at orientation. While memory has never been my strong suit, I can still remember how it felt. It felt big and unknown, and I felt small and alone. Luckily for me, that moment passed, and school started without a hitch. What I didn't realize, however, is how important my next friendship would be. Who was this, you may ask? Well, it was an old friend, MA064. Mayo was the first of the future group I would meet at school, and shortly after I met him, I would meet Luigi Pastos 87. Luigi and I would become very good friends, and I'd find out him, Mayo, and another person called Flair, who went to another school, were all friends, and I became a part of the group. To say meeting these three changed my life is an understatement. They rewrote my future. Without them, I never would have taken the inspiration to try out YouTube. Speaking of which, in my school we had clubs every Friday, and I chose the computer club. It boiled down to a bunch of us playing computer games. It wasn't much, but this was the club that did the unthinkable. It showed me YouTube and Minecraft. Yep, this club right here introduced me to my favorite game of all time. It all started there. It would have been a year before anything really started, but at the end of 2015, the seeds have been playing in my mind. The stage was set, the people were there. All I had to do was wait. " 2016 was the year things started moving to place for what was to come. After months of waiting, I went with my dad and purchased my own copy of Minecraft in mid-February, and I don't think I have to explain how big of a purchase that was. Not only did this allow me to enjoy this wonderful game and start this whole channel on it, but it also gave me another way to play with my friends, to enjoy time together and make memories. But that'll come a bit later. Also, a little thing to add in here because it didn't fit anywhere else, this was my first day on Hypixel. Pretty cool, right? Anyways, back to the section. For the first part of the year, I was making through 6th grade, and being a nuisance while doing it. Also, Jill was adopted into our family, and I think that speaks for itself. It wouldn't be until the end of the school year where I would pick up a new book series from a friend, the Warrior Cat series. I had seen it around, but I never expressed an interest in it till now. Over the summer, I became invested in the series, starting from the prequels and continuing through the books. Nothing would come of it now, but little seeds of ideas were being planted. What did happen, however, was technically my first YouTube channel, Minecraft Maniac 0011. And my second channel, Mittens The Minecrafter. See the resemblance? These channels were made with the goal of putting things on them, but since they were on my school account, they stayed quiet and were more of a name than anything. But it wouldn't be long before something amazing happened. 2017. The queen of starting dreams, the catalyst, the singularity, whatever you want to call it, this is the year my interests collided into reality and kickstarted everything that was to come. But to understand it, we have to look into each start. The start of my main channel, the start of my second channel, and the start of my artistry and me drawing. First, we'll start with drawing. I think most kids draw at some point in their lives, most people in general, and will sketch every so often as needed. But artists hone their skills, using whatever medium they choose to focus on, and improve the quality and efficiency of their work. For me, my artist journey started here. I attended a free summer starter drawer program at my local library, and we were each given a sketchbook to follow along. Afterwards, we got to keep the book, and throughout the year, I would draw in it as ideas popped in, including some very cursed attempts at a cat, and a possible channel art for the main channel. It'd be a few years before I really got into drawing regularly, but I haven't stopped since that day. Second, the main channel. With the release of 4GS and the channel intro made by Flair, my initials were locked in as MM, standing for Mittens The Minecrafter at the time. However, when I wanted to actually start my own channel away from the school account, I was given such a chance by Luigi. This was before I had a phone, so we would call for hours over my family's home phone. And so the day came, March 11th, 2017. During one such call, he offered up an opportunity. He could make me the email and channel, and then he could give it to me after. I was excited at the idea of this, and we began searching for the name I would use. We wanted to stick with the MM initials in the intro so it would still match and not have to be remade, and I was happy keeping the Mittens part. I've always been a cat person, so I stuck with it. This led the decision to what the last M would be, and we went through over 100 M words alone. The final say, though, was mine. I had the thought of mailbox, and I decided that my name would be Mittens The Mailbox. Such a simple thing back then, just a friend helping another make an email. Now it's almost inseparable from me, and I couldn't be happier. After the channel was started, Luigi would make my first two intros on my channel, V1 and V2. And after that, I would collab with Madeon playing Mario Party 6, the first series I ever uploaded to my channel. He would edit, cut, and export the videos, and all I had to do was download and upload them to YouTube. This year was very much survived with the help of others, and 2018 would be the very start of my own video making saga. The third and final piece was my second channel. After 2016 hooked me in and inspired me with the Warrior Cat series, I knew more than anything I wanted to make a channel discussing stuff related to warriors, as well as do some book reviews alongside it. I created it a few months after the main channel was made, and called it Gray Stripe for Life. You can tell which character I love the most. Only one video went up on the channel as it lay dormant for years. A short welcome to the channel, but unbeknownst to me, the future had its eyes on us. "2018 was very much a full-blown homemade renaissance. A lot of this year was tied directly into my channel, and one look at it will show you that clearly. I made my first New Year's video by chance at 12:18 AM, starting an accidental annual tradition on my channel that would stand the test of time. It actually just reached its 5th installment this year. While some of my videos were about Minecraft, including my infamous compilation video, most of them were slice of life, stuff like holidays, updates on how I was, and random videos like a plush series or showing off Hulu. Because look at her, who wouldn't? Series weren't much of a thing at the time, surprisingly. Most of them consisted of short 1 or 2 episode miniseries, followed along by the end of the Mario Party series and the first episode of the .io series. It was all very decentralized and spur of the moment, which lined up with the tone and recording methods I fell into. Other than that, a few things happened. 1, I met some of my best friends this year, including Ace and Flair. I knew of Flair before, but this was the year he transferred over to my school from zoning. And 2, I started high school. Unlike middle, I came into it with a whole group of friends, and you know, everything was great. In the face of everything, 2019 was not a quiet year. I was on multiple servers with friends, learning more about myself, and then getting that shattered, but more on that later, and even working on future YouTube projects with friends. So, what happened? To start it off on the side of YouTube, I'd been pretty consistent uploading in 2018 using whatever little idea I had as a video, and I was having fun. However, when I started putting a little bit more work into them, I was spending an hour or more editing the .io videos. This wasn't the whole reason why I stopped, but as time went on, freshman year finishing up, and the multiple video a month pace I was on before being unreasonable at the time, it fell to the wayside. What didn't fall behind, however, was Minecraft. In the summer, I'd play with my school group on various servers to build a roleplay school, which gave way to my first skin from a friend, Nokae. Nokae was my second consistent skin since Frost, and it was very much who I was for months. Just in time actually, for 2 new events happened, the start of Hypixel Skyblock and the Wonderland SMP. Skyblock was fairly straightforward. I first played with Luigi for a few days in July, and then joined Flair and Ace in theirs. Both Flair and I put so much effort into making this island what it is today. It could be its own story. Maybe future video? The Wonderland SMP though, that's a different story. It all started at the end of June, and one of my greatest moments, I thought to myself, you know what'd be cool? A Discord server for my school. Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. So that's exactly what I did. Found some fellow students to help, and boom, a functioning server. Yeah, functioning may be a little too nice, let's say working. Around the end of August, some other students I knew wanted to have a Minecraft server to go with the Discord server. And just like that, the first world of the Wonderland SMP was built. Now, as much as I love to show you some cool cinematic shots of the world, it no longer exists anymore. We were running 1.14.4, so when 1.15 arrived in December, they tried to update the server. To everyone's shock, we all logged on the next day to find the world corrupted. chunks missing or swapped, bases looking like a checkerboard. Most of our progress just scrapped, with no recent backup to combat it. With heavy hearts, we decided to reset the server and just start a new world, not knowing the world download would also not work. Leaving this world and even the seed reduced to nothing but a few screenshots shattered throughout DMs and channels, but sending us into one of the greatest seasons we'd ever have. This next part is going to be the hardest to share. Trigger warnings up on screen now, and if you want to skip, I'm not going to judge you. Go to this time. This is going to get deep, so you've been warned. You may have noticed I haven't talked much about myself for these retellings for the past few years. That's mostly in part due to not much happening that hasn't been covered somewhere else, but also because this is where it gets really close to home for me. 2018 was a very difficult year for me mentally, as it was the first year I was aware of and began struggling with depression and dysphoria. I was assigned male at birth, or AMAB, and for a long time I never really questioned who I was, who I liked, or much about myself at all. But come mid-2018, something shifted. The right amount of friends who start their own identity journeys, mixed with some newfound doubts, mixed with this brand new mind vacuum known as depression, all fused together into the very beginning of my own identity growth journey. At first it was figuring out what all these different labels meant, questioning how my feelings worked, questioning really everything about what I knew. I learned a lot of new terms, found a lot of categories for different people I never knew existed, things like bisexual, ace, polyamory, just to name a few. I was very fluid with these in early 2019 as I progressed, because the more I learned, the better suited something else would fit. It was quite fast-paced given everything, but I was finding out more about myself every day. Eventually, though, I'd stumble across another word that would throw me for a ride. Transgender. The more I looked into it, the more everything felt like it was fitting into place, and somewhere deep, a light switched on. I started going to school by a newer, more feminine name, and my style of clothing was experimental at best. I would wear everything from a hoodie and jeans to a dress and shorts, and honestly, it was amazing. To this day, I still don't know how I found the courage to do it, because I sure as heck would never do it now. But that was the beauty of it. Here I was, the recently out trans femme minding her own business and living her life to its fullest, never letting anything stop her. What could go? It did. Very fast. It was quite a small thing, really. A close friend at the time would say things to me when I asked him if he could use some different pronouns for me. Things like, "You haven't gotten the surgery, you can't be trans," or "Until you look like a girl, I won't call you one." Those are some of my personal favorites. And maybe it was the inexperience I had, being so new to the LGBT community. Maybe it was his words. Or maybe it was the way he spoke to me, as if how I felt mattered little compared to what my body looked like. I knew I didn't feel comfortable in my body, but could I really be female? Was I lying to myself? Was this all even true? However it happened, whatever the reason, that light deep in me dimmed, and it would stay that way for the next year, as I pushed down everything about myself and tried to ignore it all as much as I could. This was in part why I stopped uploading, sadly. It was too much too fast, and YouTube was just one more thing I couldn't handle. Fortunately, my story does have a better ending than this. We're just gonna have to go forward a little bit. Forward into 2020. It's finally time. 2015 was the year the ideas formed. 2017 was the year the channel started. But 2020? This is the year I made things start happening. I took life by the reins and something began to turn, and I was all for it. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. In fact, when 2020 started, I had just begun to make my return to the world of video making, and was still trapped in by the forces around me from the previous few years. So let's change that, shall we? Trigger warnings and timestamps up now. You know the drill. "2020 was so much more than a few updates, no. It was a full reinvention. With the introduction of the pandemic in March of 2020 for us, we were forced to stay in our homes and protect those around us. No friends, no visits, nothing in person. And I'm genuinely mixed on how I feel about it. On one hand, it was one of the most difficult things I ever went through, and I'm definitely not alone in that. I would spend weeks feeling disconnected from the world, like I was floating in some liminal space. Time would become meaningless, and I'd spend even longer feeling isolated. It took an extreme amount of effort to teach my mind that I didn't have to call my friends every day of the week, of course with lots of help from them. And sure, I may be an introvert. I may spend quite a bit of time in my room drawing, editing, or watching videos, but this was a whole new level of trapped, because this time it was in our own heads. As the year went on, I started to notice things, and I developed a quote. The pandemic didn't change who we were, it just revealed the parts of us we didn't want to think about. And for myself and the people I knew, it was true. Long deserted dreams, old fears, negative behaviors that ignored parts of us. It was all there, staring us straight in the face, and for once in our lives there was nowhere else we could go. We had to look ourselves in the mirror every day and realize we didn't know everything about ourselves, and we had to confront what we didn't want to look at. I think I knew eventually I would have to look at myself again, not just who I was, but the full picture of me, the one I'd been ignoring for a year. At some point I knew this 4A would finally be enough to break me, and that maybe, just maybe, those feelings and needs weren't just from a high schooler's fantasy. They were real. In May, I found myself in my room, alone, and I considered doing something I hadn't thought about in a very long time. What if I take the dress out from under my desk? The one feminine piece of clothing I had been given from a friend. The one I hid away when I was too hurt to look at it anymore. Too afraid to look at myself anymore. I didn't have to see it when it was hidden away. Didn't have to see myself. The longer it stayed there, the longer I could live this lie. But that's what it was, a lie. I was ignoring myself, ignoring the deepest, truest parts of me every day, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I pulled my desk away, picked up the dress, and for the first time in 16 years, I let myself in. And what followed was one of the best years I've ever experienced, pain and all. It all started with the texture pack. I made the first 2 installments in late 2019, and the third would come out in February. This would spark me back into making videos, and I began releasing on a newer, more consistent schedule of every 2 weeks. I continued work on the .AO series with plans to have as a permanent series on my channel, but eventually finished early as I ran out of games I knew of. Next, I would start working on an actual Minecraft survival series, and that would change 2 things, the second channel and the editor. When I record an episode of the playthrough, I would sit down and just play Minecraft for an hour or so. Then I'd send it over to Flair, who was so gracious to help me out during this time, and would get it back from him to upload. It was the most recent, and as of now, the last time someone else has edited a video for me. Although after the series he wasn't able to do it anymore, I'm still very proud of what he did, and an alternate intro was even made out of it. Here it is. The full files of the recordings, however, I wanted to store somewhere, as a self-thought of sorts. So I dusted off the old channel, gave it some minor tweaks, and just like that, the Mailbox Uncut was born. Yep, it existed before I kept Twitch fonts on it. There was one tiny little piece we still had to bring to the channel to get everything up to the new year, the intro. The intro had gone through a few versions, but as I never had the files for the first and second ones, and the third was merely an attempt to put something out there, they were never used. There was, however, a glimmer of light. Flair had made me an intro in mid to late 2019, but as I wasn't uploading and sorting out my life, it sat dormant for a few months. When 2020 rolled around and I began to create again, the need for it rose once again, and I made a video explaining it all, finally bringing my channel up to code. Now that everything was here for the ride, I took on the year with stride. Yes, I made that rhyme. Wait, that rhymed too. How deep does this go? How deep will it continue? I found a channel during early April by the name of Cage the Cartoonist, and I fell in love with the quick animated skits and the wonderful animator behind it. I tuned into the live streams, and when it launched, joined his Discord. The community we built up because of it was unlike anything I'd ever been a part of, and out of it spawned some of the most wonderful friends and group projects I'd ever have the pleasure of working on. At first, it was a simple idea really. What if the mods of Kobe's server were a Mafia gang? They made some art, drew up some designs, and Cole even made a big group drawing of them all. But oh, how little we realized what had been unleashed. Over the next 6 months we would build up a story of 2 rival gangs, bound by mistrust and betrayal in 1920, fighting for their lives to make it out unscathed. The story and cast would go through quite a few changes, and to culminate it all, I'd release my biggest video to date, My Timeless Whispers, the 6-month Mafia AU anniversary gift. 50 minutes of sharing my story, the story of the group, and what we've done so far in planning it out, including my proudest achievement, the all-encompassing Mafia AU art drive, where I saved every whip, doodle, and group project ever done in one place. If you're wondering how much has changed since then, this was the count then, here it is now. But after all that, there's still one more place to talk about. One so deeply ingrained into my life through high school that it wouldn't have been the same without it. One so emotionally connected that what we built transcended the walls we made them in. Seasons 2 and 3 of the Wonderland SMP. Now, when we left off at the end of Season 1, we had just lost the world to the 1.15 update corruption, so naturally, we started Season 2 in 1.15. My journey through this world would follow as such. Start a base with Ace and Flare in the swamp, start the Nether hub, move to the new base, start underground, move upwards, get joined by another friend, start a base in the mountains, build the Quillender, build a shop, participate in a trial, help out with the jungle base, and write our stories. As simple as I can make it, there you go. In reality, there's a lot more nuance to everything, as it was online for 7 months, but that's the bare bones of mine. Maybe I'll make a video on the story of each station in the future. I think that'd be quite fun. But in the middle of that nuance exists these stories. I, for obvious reasons, removed the names off the signs, but each one of these books contains a story of this world, written by each person. Me? Well, mine took up 2, and takes an hour to read to start to finish. In the beginning of a pandemic, where Minecraft was my main source of activity and communication, this season became something beautiful. It was the best blend of interaction and slice of life, the right amount of one-offers joining, mixed with others who pop in every so often, or regularly like Jade and I. A mix of bases and events, of friends and trials. It was home. And that shaped how we saw the server forever. Also the Quillender, my pride and joy, my baby, my lovely, the proudest I've ever been a part of ever, 10 out of 10, would build again, you can't tell me otherwise, it's the best thing I have ever made. Take that. After this season, we actually started calling them seasons, instead of the first world and the second world. Planning for Season 3 started early into June, and our plans were ambitious. Build a center spawn broken up into 8 districts, one of each regular as a builder, and try to get more incoming freshmen into the server. That, in fact, did not work. The plan failed hard, harder than we'd ever imagined. The division of everyone in districts actually drove us all apart, and with the added bonus of certain commands, and keep inventory being on, we were able to divide among ourselves easily. The world may have started as one, but eventually it fizzled apart, thousands of blocks away from the spawn we planned to call home. The story, however, doesn't end there. It was a relieving feeling in the end. Finally, after everything I'd dealt with in the last few years, and after everything I'd done to grow my skills in art and video making, after every part of me was finally accounted for and proud of myself, I was out of the slump I'd found myself in, and with all I'd learned, the people I'd met, and the gain I'd made, I felt ready to take on anything that came my way, no matter how big. "2021 would prove itself to be a lesson in strength. 2020 was a big step up for both me and my channel, but the looming threat of having another 2019 was still very present in my mind. So I did what any reasonable human being would do. Go head first into it anyways. To start us off, we have to pick up where we left off. After the impact Season 2 left on the minds of the server members and myself, we began to see Season 3 as lesser, not worthy of its successor. I was particularly guilty of this. Once our original ideas failed, it felt like it was better this world just fade into memory and didn't live on to be remembered. When Flare and I were hit with the need to leave the makeshift spawn in September, we decided to move to a crescent-shaped island off the coast of a mesa biome, which I found by accident as they flew at very high speeds. There we would spend the rest of 2020 building and living off on our own. Flare building a villager tower with many rooms to house the different librarians, and I digging out an island to create an underground farm area, complete with windows on every side. The view from both projects was astounding, and truly were a staple of the season for me. We abandoned most conventional ways of eating, and for a while, we lived off of beetroot soup. This island really was the perfect getaway vacation for us, far away, purely our own, and full of new ideas every day. Of course, we were visited by others all the time, and we do the same for their own projects, We're a group of friends after all. We were always looking at each other's work. But starting around the new year in January, it had been a while since I'd gone back to Spawn for more than a few minutes. Now, I wanted to go back and look at it all again, see it after being gone for so long. And I did. And I discovered something I hadn't realized. It was the walls. The walls I had built all those months ago were so much stronger than I ever realized. We all left Spawn because we felt a need to be ourselves, away from the pressure and uniformity we'd planned to turn our Spawn into. So, with a little bit of time and some deep breaths, I tore down the walls. And the floodgates truly opened. After a month hiatus from the server as it closed down for maintenance and fixing, things began to spring into action faster than ever before. A library was built, people began writing books. A massive digging project we named The Circle, for obvious reasons you'll see, was started underground, and massive amounts of progress were being made every few weeks. The Nether Hub was expanded and organized, bases were worked on, and my proudest moment of all, Spawn was improved. It started with the walls of course, but it didn't stop there. There were still lines and gashes through the ground and in the mountains where they had once stood, and from a flight's perspective, their circle was very much still there, even with its removal. So I began working on a smoothing restoration project. My new goal became to unsquare the borders of each old district, fix up the holes left by the walls. And fix up the holes left by the walls. Projects like adding terracotta and waving lines to break up the Chaos District, expanding the detailing done in the Cottagecore District, or adding more plots to the shopping district. I'd fix up patches of grass here, connect areas of earth there, and after a few months of work, it was finally finished. And with that, the season finally came to a close in early July, and the survivors banded together for one last hurrah of this 11-month-long season, a new home in our hearts, and a place to be happily remembered for years to come. Now, we enter the first and only Minecraft speedrun of this video. Let's begin. The Vive SMP, the first non-school SMP I ever joined. I would start rebuilding the starter village into Satura, and the fellow nation of Crystal Queer would be involved in a mass hysteria. Great times honestly, but the world was snapped and we don't know who did it. There was a season 2 as well, but that surely died out. Entertide SMP. Where do I even start? The second SMP run by Ace, which combined even more people I didn't know at first, and were centered around a mysterious town, a secret cult, and a dark past threatening to destroy everything. My character, who I made myself, and I was so proud of her, and oh my gosh, my first decent looking skin I could fangirl of her all day, was named Laffy, a young amnesiac cat girl who found herself a family among the other residents, whose life was never stagnant with the strange happenings of the town. In terms of story, we successfully made it out of the prologue, but due to scheduling conflicts and inactivity, this beloved story was put to rest. I would finish this chapter with quite a few streams of writing Laffy's journals and the war streams themselves, as well as 4 videos surrounding the SMP. There's so much story that was never revealed and or streamed that could be talked about later, but at the end of the day, this really was an important keystone for who I am now, and has taken its place among the history books. Season 4 of the Wonderland SMP. This was an interesting season given everything we've talked about so far. Season 1 was the Lost Foundation, Season 2 was the Age of Stories and Connections, and Season 3 was a reminder of the beauty in everything. Season 4 was a compromise to end Season 3's continuation, as we had been in it for almost a year, to hold us off until 1.18 released. So for the next 6 months, Season 4 would live and breathe inside 1.17, and proved to be quite the fascinating time. It all started with a plan. Back in Season 3, Flare had opened up a poll to the members of the season to join the new nation of Anusha, being built in the next world. Once the switch was complete, we'd get ourselves started around the area, before heading off to a decently sized island to start building. Flare was in charge of building the capital, constructed over a lake in the center of the island and filled with different villagers in a big central tower. I would later add on to his structure by building the maid cafe at the top, an icy house with tables and a counter to rest in and gaze at the sunsets. If I'm able to, the image of what I based it off on will be right here. The island would grow to consist of Aggie's cavern home, Jade's airship, the port city storage area, and the farming district. This would house farms like my massive semi-manual crop farm, an iron farm, a sunflower farm, so we could make money, and a few other small farms here and there. There was also a multi-room lounge constructed by Jade and Flare while I was away, and honestly, it's one of my favorite things about the season, tied with a crop farm. Little side note, The big farm was fully designed and built for me months before this as an original giant potato farm for Endertype, but when things started to drop off, I tweak and build the design here. It's the biggest farm I've ever made. Eventually though, it'd come to an end, and as wonderful as it was, the deadline had approached, and 1.18 had dropped. So the middle of December, we'd switched to the final season ever, the one we're still playing on as I record this video, Season 5. I won't say much about it, but with some newcomers joining the server, bases being built, shops constructed, and skills tested, it's shaping up to be a wonderful last hurrah of this 2.5-year journey we've gone on. The ending of the season is going to be wild. And finally, I can't finish this off without talking about Connection Point and in turn, my journey through Twitch. I'd start streaming the end of the Vibe SMP back on December 22nd, 2020. I'd move on to the Endertype SMP next before that followed suit. Aside from my many game and chill streams, I'd start a new single-player survival world at the beginning of 1.17, one I'd come to know as Connection Point. This series would take me from just playing with friends to actually working on one world, and I'd create so many wonderful builds. Alongside it, I'd start to grow my audience bit by bit, moving me ever closer to the goal of 100 followers. As the mailbox had sat unused for about a year at that point, I decided to continue its legacy and use it to house all my VODs from streaming. If you're curious, yes, I do have multiple playlists for minigames and Connection Point both linked down below and on the channel. If you're ever looking for something I've streamed, that's the place to be. And that's it. As 2020 would go on, I'd keep my resolve strong and make videos with the quality I never imagined I could. My computer would crash early in the year, losing most everything I had from 2018 to January 2021. I still have the hard drive, but until I can find the money to have someone search it, the relics of Season 1, the memories of seasons and SOPs I've been on, they'll have to wait a little bit longer in Schrodinger's cage. And that's the final piece. That's everything about me, about my worlds, about my channel, before 2022. We finally made it, but am I ready? March 11th, 2022. I am 18, not quite going on 19. To most others going on with their life, it's another normal day. No new start of the school year at the new school, no new change to adjust to, no new bills to pay, friends to talk to, or experiences to make. It's just a normal day. But not for me. For me, I'm sitting here in my room on this ordinary day, watching a video. A big video. For me, I am sharing my life, my identity, my failures and my accomplishments, all out to you. While memory has never been my strong suit, this moment feels bigger than anything else I've ever lived. It feels big and unknown, the fear of what people will say or think almost paralyzing. And I feel afraid and endless, like the world has centered right on me for this one moment, and I can't hide from it. But I know now that it's okay. The last 5 years of my life are a path to right here, right now, and they've all given me something. They gave me memories, stories, inspiration, hope. But more than anything, they gave me myself. I am not the same person I was when I started this channel all those years ago. I'm not the storyteller who created the Wonderland's memories. I'm not the person who made videos on a simple game about blocks. I'm not even the girl who sat there alone in her room, trying to understand who was standing in the mirror. I'm so much more. Because if I've learned anything over the course of this channel, over the course of my life, it's that I believe in this dream. I believe in my chances, I believe in my friends, and I believe in myself. It may not be perfect. It may not be as big as I wanted it to be 5 years ago, but every hour I spent editing, every day I spent drawing, every minute I played Minecraft, it was worth it. Every video I released, every day I tried, every friend I gained, and every skill I made, it was worth it. It was all worth it. I am worth it. And I'm not going to stop here. I will continue to push on until I'm struck down or until I make a breakthrough. I'm going to continue experimenting with videos, continue making memes, and continue streaming for as long as I can because I have a dream. I have a passion. I am creative. I am skilled. And I am strong. Because I know I can do anything I set my mind to. no matter how many hurdles come my way. And if I could go back and tell myself anything, I'd get down on my knees, look myself in the eyes and say, you're not going to know who you are for a while. You're going to feel like your mind is splitting apart, like the world is caving in. You're going to feel hopeless and lost, and above all else, like you're still just some kid who's dumb and inexperienced and doesn't deserve what you earn. But you'll make it through. You'll find yourself among the chaos and learn that your body doesn't define you. You'll take every single sub and fall with pride and improve your skills beyond anything you think is possible. You will rock the world to its core, and you will be beautiful. This year was always going to be the end to so many beginnings, so many journeys. This is the year I got my permanent crowns on. This is the year I graduate with my friends in my class, putting high school behind me for good. This is the year I say goodbye to the Wonderland SMP, and be thankful for the life it's given me. The year I reached 100 followers on Twitch, and have developed my art and personas to a point where I'm happy with what they've become, and ready for who they'll be. This is the year where I know who I am, a young trans adult, still pushing forward, the one where every ending starts a new, wonderful beginning. Today is the day I leave everything before me behind. Today is the day I say goodbye to old worries that haunt me, old friends long gone, and old lives I'll never live. Because today I celebrate 5 years of being me, with the wonderful friends and family I have around me. I couldn't have done this without you, and I hope you know just how important you are to me in my life. Today is the day I can sit down and know that I love every part of me without hate, love every memory I've made and every video I've created. Today is the day everything I just finished, everything I've completed and learned, gives me one last sentence, one last goodbye. You're off to great places. Today is the day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way.